Great job.
Talk to Kathy?
Yeah, she said okay.
I figured. She does. She's coming in her jammies, I guess. Yeah, that's not going. I screwed up.
Great, how are you? I don't know.
Trustee Fenton?
Here.
Trustee Dodge? Trustee Guerra?
Here.
Trustee Ruzick? Trustee Calandrello?
Here.
Trustee Carroll?
Here.
Mayor Pico? Here. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure.
Approval of October 15, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of October 15, 2018.
Second. Any changes? Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra?
Hi.
Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Approval of October 22nd, 2018 special meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Calandrello.
I move to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustees special meeting of October the 22nd, 2018.
Second.
Any changes? Call the roll.
Trustee Calandrello?
Aye.
Trustee Guerra?
Aye.
Trustee Fenton?
Aye.
Trustee Carroll?
Aye.
Mayor Pico?
Aye.
Special Olympic 50th anniversary presentation.
So tonight we have a presentation for Terrence James Regan, who not only was a participant in this year's Special Olympics program, but also was at the very first Special Olympics program that was held at Soldier Field. And I believe our Special Rec Department has a presentation to give.
All set? Okay. Good evening, everyone. For anyone that was at the Special Recreation Sports Banquet this year, I apologize for being redundant. It's a good speech, so we're doing it again. This award is a really exciting way to see firsthand the fruits of Special Olympics. This individual that's joined with us this evening has been a Special Olympic participant since he was 12 years old. He was one of the first participants to participate in the first set of games, and he was able to go down and celebrate the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics. He joined Special Olympics. I feel like this thing's really, yeah, thank you. Good grief. Thank you. He joined Special Olympics in West Pullman. where he was raised in a loving family, and he is one of 6 children. His siblings have continued the loving legacy that his parents began. When interviewed, he shared with me that he made 9 friends in his first event. He is happy when he receives a medal and is very humble about the amount of medals that he has received. School was tough for kids with disabilities 50 years ago. Special Olympics is where he found his joy. When he is competing in an event, he has quoted to me, "It makes me feel normal." So just to give you all an idea of how valuable and how important Special Olympics is, this is a wonderful night for our dear friend, Terry Regan.
Terrence James Regan, for years of participation in the Village of Orland Park Special Olympics programs and the 1968 inaugural Special Olympics International Games at Soldier Field, Chicago. Congratulations.
Honor David Klein and Brittany Yatter of Orland Funeral Home.
Tonight is a night of a lot of awards. So David and Brittany, if you can come up. I want to thank both David and Brittany and Orland Park Funeral Home for, I guess it goes by Orland Funeral Home, for their donation of $3,700 to the Orland Park Police Department for bulletproof vests. In addition, the board and myself would like to recognize both Brittany and David for honoring a homeless World War II Navy vet who passed away in Chicago. Orland Funeral Home hosted the funeral free of charge. His family has not been found over all these years, and he went by several different names, date of birth, social security numbers, due to a mental illness. A former Cook County Sheriff's PD detective recently got involved and found his 2 sisters in Iowa who came to Chicago for the service. Chief McCarthy, thank you very much, provided a police escort for the funeral car, along with the Will County Sheriff's Police to the Board of Orland Park, where the sheriffs took over to the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery. Orland Funeral Home did the whole service free of charge. On behalf of the board and myself, I'd like to thank you not only for the donation, but for that tremendous act of kindness for a deceased veteran. Thank you very much.
Honor 40th Spelling Bee winners and Dr. Smith.
As I said, this is going to be a night of a lot of awards. So tonight, to honor the 40th annual Spelling Bee winners and Dr. Smith, which is what I'd like to do. So, and I would also like to thank Trustee Guerra and Trustee Ruzick for helping me judge the competition as well. That was held a few Sundays ago. So first, I would like to honor a couple of retiring volunteers or veterans of this event. Margie Burnett.
And Amy.
And also Amy Goebel. And then for the winners, we'll start with Judy Rice. First place champion.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Patricia Kurtz, who finished second place.
Winning word. The winning word.
Third place overall winner, Brian Sullivan. Okay. Our high school winner was Brendan Bourne. I don't believe he's here. Okay. Junior high winners, first place, Carter Stiglet.
I'll take one of these. Right here.
Second place winner, Ava Cronenberger.
Yeah.
Kevin Buzz, third place winner. And in the 8 to 10-year-old division, first place, Kenda Michaud. Second place, Jack Hovey.
Go Bears. Nice shirt, Jack.
He can wear it with pride now.
You can. Yeah.
Third place, Ella Restivo. And then also, I have a special award for Dr. Smith, who you wouldn't be able to do this without 40 years of hard work and effort, and his commitment to doing his spelling bee. So the Village of Orland Park proclamation, a proclamation honoring Dr. William D. Smith. Whereas William D. Smith was born in Chicago on November 10, 1928, and whereas William D. Smith is a product of the Chicago public school system with degrees from the University of Michigan, Western Michigan University, and a doctorate from Loyola University. Whereas William D. Smith and his late wife Anita had 3 daughters, Christine, Kathy, and Lisa, and have 5 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. And whereas William D. Smith served as the superintendent of Alsip School District 126 for 31 years, retiring in 1990. And whereas William D. Smith held his first open spelling bee in 1976, the Oak Lawn Bicentennial Spelling Bee. And whereas it was 1978 that William D. Smith created the Orland Park Open Spelling Bee, co-sponsored by the Presbyterian Church of Orland Park and the Village of Orland Park. And whereas it was on October 14, 2018, that William D. Smith oversaw the 40th annual Orland Park Open Spelling Bee, drawing 7 former champions back to compete, along with spellers of all ages. And whereas on Saturday, November 10, 2018, William D. Smith will celebrate his 90th birthday. Now, therefore, I, village president of the Village of Orland Park, Illinois, and the counties of Cook and Will, do hereby extend the gratitude of the entire community to Spellmaster William D. Smith, 40 years of spelling bees, and hereby proclaim Saturday, November 10, 2018, is Dr. William D. Smith Day in the Village of Orland Park.
Thank you, one and all. Recognize that my accomplishments have not been done by me. They have been done by many, 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 many people helping me. That's the 40th spelling bee of 2 weeks ago. All of those stories from the spelling bee, the people who compete, the people who bring the spelling. Every single trustee has served as a judge in these 40 years. Every one. Every mayor has participated either in a welcome or as a judge. The two ladies that received the award a few minutes ago have run the spelling bees for about the past 15 years. I sit there and enjoy it. I was promoted at the beginning, and I share in the halo in the end. But again, thank you very much. This is a collective enterprise. It's a spelling bee open to anyone from anywhere of any age. Every single person in this room, if they wish, could compete in it. Thank you, and we look forward to the 41st.
Mr. Mayor,
Trustee Carroll.
I will point out that in the proclamation, Dr. Smith, I was surprised there wasn't a whereas that one of your star students when you were a school superintendent was our village manager, Joe Lamargo. And I'm just wondering how you haven't been able to twist his arm into compete in the spelling bee. I think I know the answer, having seen some of his writings, but I'm just kind of curious.
Consent agenda?
Consent agenda. Item A, payroll for October 19th, 2018. Item B, accounts payable from October 16th, 2018 through November 5th, 2018, approval. Item C, disposal of village equipment donation. All computer-related technology items that are outdated and or no longer operating, ordinance. Item D, Cultural Arts Center carpet bid award. Item E, easement machine with trailer purchase. Item F, disposal of the village equipment. Online auction, equipment from Public Works Department ordinance. Item G, 2018-2019 road salt annual purchase. Item H, iSIMS recruit onboarding software renewal. Item I, workout anytime special use permit. Item J, CTF Illinois special use permit. Item K, the Village of Tallgrass property annexation ordinance. Item L, solar panel installation 10921 Sheridan's Trail, Diaz residence, installation of 7.8 kilowatt solar array as part of an environmental clean technology review. Item M, solar panel installation 10255 144th Street, Silkowski residence, installation of 3.48 kilowatt solar array as part of an environmental clean technology review. Are there any changes to the consent agenda? I will entertain a motion for items A through M of the consent agenda. Trustee Ruzick.
I move to approve items A through M of the consent agenda.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton. Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Calangello. Mayor Pico.
Aye.
Elevated tank design?
This item is for discussion only, and it's water tower concepts.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton.
This item has been discussed twice at the committee level. The first time round, we had some very creative suggestions for the team that worked on this project. It was Doug from Public Works and Stephanie from Development Services, and they took our requests, our ideas, and came back with the set of water tower examples that you're going to see this evening. And these examples are so we can get going on one water tower in particular right now, the one over on Harlem by Colonial Chapel. Hopefully everybody will enjoy This is not the new version, this is the original version.
Is somebody giving us a presentation here?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So I'm here tonight to request direction by the board regarding paint designs. And as trustee Fenton has mentioned, we've been before the committee twice, seeking direction. The following exhibits up here are the previous presentations. A and B are the simplest of the designs. It's a monolithic color with the village's new logo. And then as we scroll through, we adapted ideas, trying to pull elements from certain features within Orland Park, especially along the Grange Road, such as the brickwork for the monuments and for the planters. We've had a request that the base of the tanks be blended in with the surrounding landscapes. So we added trees to the base of the tank to help, not necessarily camouflage, but again, just to blend in. And this is very unique for us because the village has had the same design on the elevated tanks for over 50 years now. While Rhodes Golf Center is recognizable throughout Illinois, it's no longer applicable. We have many subdivisions now that were once golf courses. So really what I'm here tonight, just kind of looking for direction as we're working with Strand and Associates to come up with a finalized design. And that design will not only be applied to our first tank, which is Harlem Avenue, but we'll apply that design to the 7 elevated tanks that the village owns. There are things that do have to be taken into consideration. Costs are always very important. Elevated tank 5 is our smallest tank, so it will be the least expensive. Elevated tank 1 on Wolf Road, by comparison, is a 2 million gallon tank. So elevated tank 5 is 300,000 gallons. Elevated tank 1 is 2 million gallons. It's quite a bit more surface area. The more elaborate the designs, the more expensive, of course, this painting kits. I'd just like to give the board an opportunity to review the different designs and provide some additional direction.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Carroll?
Mr. Medlin, I'm seeing that the committee had recommended J, which was on the previous screen there. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And I also see in the report there was something about the dirtiest part, if I read this correctly, is underneath the ball, like at the top of the shaft, so to speak, or is it?
So over the years, what happens is because water is stored in the top of the tank, it does condensate in the summertime, and it does attract dirt, and it does lend itself susceptible to mold growth. We do have a program where we power wash tanks. Regardless of any of the designs, we would maintain that program. We'd power wash the tanks. But if we went with a monolithic color, a lighter color on the bottom of the ball, it'd probably be more frequent.
And I'm assuming then that the difference between D and J would be that D, because it carries that brick pattern all the way down to the base, would be more expensive than J, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Guerra?
Mr. Medlin, you mentioned that the tanks were last painted 20 years ago.
Correct.
Is that a reasonable expectation that this new paint would last another 20 years?
Yes, we use Tnemec paints. Tnemec is well known throughout the water and sewer industry. It is a epoxy paint. The paint is designed to be submerged permanently underwater. So the expectation is that 15 to 20 years. With proper maintenance such as power washing, which is what we do our tank cleanings, we've been able to extend it to 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Fenton?
The one water tower at Carl Sandburg High School will remain white, and it will remain with home of the Eagles on facing the field. So that tower is not going to be involved with the new design.
Are there any other questions or comments? The committee recommended J. That was one of the few of the ones that I thought were nice, so I'm fine with J. I don't know, I'm assuming that Trustee Fenton and Trustee Ruzick are fine with J since they're on the committee. If the other 3 board members are okay with J, I think we can give you direction to go that route.
Yes.
Yes.
Fine with Jay?
Sounds like we have a voice vote that that's the way to proceed.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Very nice.
Century Medical Park.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Ruzick.
I move to approve a special use permit with modifications, site plan, elevations, and preliminary landscape plan for Century Medical Park 2 located at 16045 South 108th Avenue, as recommended at the October 23rd Plan Commission meeting and as fully referenced below.
Second.
Do we have a presentation here?
Hello. I can answer any questions you have. This is located off of 108th Avenue. The reason why this is bypassing committee and going straight to board tonight is because there's a mistake made by the publication within the Prairie newspaper, and they missed publishing it. And so that is a reason why this was forwarded directly to the board. Otherwise, they would have to wait another month to get approval. So that's why you see this under the regular agenda tonight.
Okay, and it was unanimous from the Planning Commission?
It was.
Are there any questions or comments? I have none. Looks like a great plan. Call the roll.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. Motion carries.
Orland Park's Veterans Golf Classic.
Is Tom Dubel in the
He is.
audience?
Yep.
Come on up. So what Tom's going to talk about is briefly talk about the Veterans Golf Classic, and then also they're requesting approval of the donations to the following organizations. He'll go through that, but it's based on their amount of participation.
Well, you're probably getting tired of seeing me up here, so I'll be brief. When we put the budget together initially in the beginning of the year, it called for about $25,000 in donations. We're actually donating a little bit under $21,000. That was set for each organization. We developed a baseline amount, and then based on their participation, either in helping with sponsorship or getting prizes or different other criteria, the amounts varied, and the total comes down to just a little under $21,000. With your approval, those checks will be cut and sent out to those organizations within the next week or so. So thank you very much. We had a very successful golf outing, in a large part because of all of you in the village, our Orland Park family. So if you have any questions or...
Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Well done.
Trustee Ruzick.
I just wanted to comment that, Tom, you also had a very successful collection drive yesterday for the vets.
Yes, we had a collection for our troops who are in harm's way. Yesterday afternoon up at the Vet Center on West Avenue, we collected a little over 1,000 pounds worth of goods and almost $1,500 in donations to pay for the postage. So thank you, community of Orland Park.
So all in favor of those donations? Say aye.
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 All against?
Thank you.
Motion carries 6-0.
Well done, Tom.
And I want to say thank you to all the volunteers, too, that made that such a wonderful event. So they worked hard for the donations that they're getting. All of those organizations worked very hard, so appreciate it.
Establishing an administrative procedure of assessing and determining claims under PSEBA.
Mr. Mayor, basically the text ordinance setting forth a formal procedure for applying and for determining the Public Safety Employees Benefits Act claims. This is recommended by legal and is based on a model ordinance drafted by the Illinois Municipal League. Attorney Fricker here here he can answer some more specifics on it, but essentially it requires that an employer who employs a full-time law enforcement correctional probation officer or firefighter who on or after the effective date of this act suffers a catastrophic injury or is killed in the line of duty shall pay the entire premium of the employer's health insurance plan for the injured employee.
Are there any questions or comments? And I guess, Attorney Fricker, do you have any comments on this?
Well, yes, let me just explain briefly that this law, the Public Safety Employee Benefits Act, has been in force since 1997, although it's been amended a number of times since then. The unfortunate part is, as Village Manager Lamargo explained, it is a provision to require an employer of a public safety employee who suffers a catastrophic injury or is killed in performing his or her duties, that the employer, which would be the village, would pay the health insurance not only for the employee if the employee survives, but also for the employee's family dependents for the rest of his life and until as long as they qualify for the benefits. The problem with the act is that it does not define catastrophic injury and does not set forth a procedure for applying for these benefits. So the Illinois Municipal League, with the assistance of various municipal law firms, including ours, have come up with a draft ordinance, which is before you tonight. And what it does is define the words catastrophic injury to be an injury, the direct and proximate consequences of which permanently prevent an individual from performing any gainful work. And it defines gainful work as full or part-time activity that actually is compensated or commonly is compensated. So at least it provides a framework for providing these benefits should the village have an employee who suffers, a public safety employee who suffers a catastrophic injury. And we also have included in that ordinance a procedure for reviewing the employee's application for benefits and determining whether or not the employee is entitled to those benefits. And we feel it's important that there be a procedure, a due process procedure within the village code to provide for those benefits should it happen.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Carroll.
My only concern in reviewing the ordinance over the weekend is when we're looking at Section 3 application procedure in paragraph A, there's a provision that the public safety officer themselves, if they're alive, or their family member, if they're injured beyond the capacity to fill out the application, or if they're deceased, have to file that application within 30 days of filing a pension claim. Without language in there that puts a duty upon the village to notify the surviving spouse or family member of that possibility, this code would appear to preclude someone, if they didn't apply within those 30 days, from receiving this benefit. I prefer to see, and I know it's based on an IML model ordinance, but I'd prefer to see language in there mandating that the village HR department or management staff or whomever be required to advise the family members in writing of the possibility of filing this application, because otherwise this ordinance as drafted precludes the family from getting any benefits. I'd hate to see one of our police officers catastrophically injured or killed, having their family not get these benefits because they didn't file that claim within 30 days of that date. That's my only concern with it. It could be probably solved with a sentence addition requiring the village to send proper notice to the family within X number of days of that catastrophic illness or death.
Are there any other comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Calandrello.
I kind of agree with that. I don't know if we could just add an amendment to the ordinance and maybe legal can come back with that. I think it's only the right thing to do to make sure that the party has notice. I don't know if that's just adding a sentence today or sending it back to legal to add that sentence, but I think that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Attorney Fricker, should we amend it today, or should you come back with a new one?
No, we should come back with a new one. We want to make sure that the language is correct. I have no problem with an amendment or a provision in there notifying the family of the opportunity.
Unless there are any other comments, I'll entertain a motion to postpone to a date certain, November 19th, our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Carroll.
I'll make that motion. If we can ask Mr. Fricker, is that enough time to have it at our next board meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion to postpone this to a definite time of November 19th.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Calangelo.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye. So non-scheduled citizens and visitors, if Bob Connors could come up? Tom, could you clear the...
I'm with Bob, I'm Nancy Gorman.
Clear the room make room for Bob to come through.
My name is Nancy Gorman, and I'm here to address the board with my concerns about discontinuing the dial-a-ride service.
So you're going to go first, you're also on here,
Yes.
so, okay.
I believe this is a heartless move to deny the most vulnerable of our residents a much-needed service. The cover story in the Orland Park Prairie talked about lamenting the loss of Pace's dial-a-ride and described the reasons behind this horrible decision. There were several examples of individuals whose quality of life would be negatively impacted by this, and I would like to also introduce to you another young man that this will affect. This is my nephew, Bob Connors. He's 30 years old, he's a resident of Orland Park, and he has cerebral palsy. Bob has worked his whole life overcoming his disability. He graduated from Sandburg High School and now attends classes at Moraine Valley Community School. Bob uses the dial-a-ride to go to physical therapy, to work part-time. He goes to doctor visits, shopping, banking, veterinary visits, church, recreation. This is a service that Bob desperately needs. The alternatives that were suggested do not work for Bob. He is not a senior citizen, so he cannot use the township service. He was told he must be 60 years old to use that. The RTA service run by Pace is also not a good option because it serves a wide area and these trips can take much longer. Bob also receives a very modest income from the state, so the idea of using Uber or Lyft that were suggested would be a financial burden. In addition, I don't know if you are aware, but Uber or Lyft does not have cars that will take care of wheelchairs. Those are available in the city of Chicago. There's no such thing out here in the suburbs. So it's my understanding that this would save the village about $130,000. That does not seem like a significant amount to me. When I think of all the taxes and the large, almost 60,000 residents in this community, that would seem like not a lot of money. I've also talked with Bob, and he's told me that approximately they pay $2 for the ride. He would be willing, as many of the other 20 people that are affected by this, to up that fee. So I would just like to leave you with a quote, and then Bob has a couple other things to say that I think the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Connors. I've been a resident of Orland Park for 30 years. A lot of what Nancy said was correct, but I want to clarify one thing. The RTA doesn't, even though it will take a long time to get to trips because it's a wide variety of places, so, some places in Orland, they will not even touch to go. So it's not even a question. And so, you know, the 25 people that need the service, you're basically saying that don't count in your community. But we still support the community and we still do everything. So please help us out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any comments from the board? So I'll just make a couple of comments. Thank you very much for your comments. And I don't think anyone on the board takes the decision lightly. And to your point, there's approximately 20 riders. What I do have here is, so as everyone knows, if you're over 60, you can use the Orland Township services, which some of the people pointed out in the Prairie article are perfectly capable of using. They don't have the medical disabilities. For those with medical disabilities, PACE does provide service, and they use 3 different transit groups that they contract with. But you do have to get in the program. 4 to 6 weeks it takes to get in the program. So anyone who's eligible for that should apply now, so before we stop our service, that they're eligible. They do get an interview, and the interview can take a little while to get set up, but they do come out and pick you up and bring you back for the interview. It is possible, because they do drop within only a certain distance of their routes, that there are some areas that maybe don't get coverage. If that's the case, please let the mayor's office know, because I have spoken to a couple of the car dealers in the area, and they're not going to be able to take all 24 or 25, but if there's 1 or 2 special circumstances that are not covered, if you're covered by these other programs, then we would ask that you use those programs. But if you're not covered by those programs, and for some reason you're the 1 or 2 people that may be falling through the cracks on this, please, let us know, and we will try to find other alternatives. There are potentially other alternatives that are much more efficient, both financially and from personnel and maintenance and all of those other things. From the local community where they will pitch in and help, and there may be some opportunity for that. But we have to know. If you don't let our office know, either the mayor's office or Sarah, who's the assistant for the trustees, if you don't let us know, we can't help you. We're more than happy to try and help and try and find a solution, because I don't think anyone here wants to leave anyone out without service.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Ruzick.
I meant to jump in before you talked, but so 2 things I wanted to ask. Have we reached out to the RTA and asked if they would be willing to expand their services in Orland? Or can we do that at least?
We can absolutely reach out to them. We have not reached out to them about.
Okay.
But yeah, this is I think in the Chicago area, this is they try to run off of their existing routes is kind of how they try to do it. And so it may be, to get them to expand the whole Chicago area with their budget things, it may be challenging. But it would be good to know if anyone is not covered by that, because I think we may have some other alternatives there. And Tom, you and I can talk about it a little bit offline.
And then secondly, I know Uber does offer, I think Nancy, you were talking about it, it's Uber Wave, I think it is, which I spoke to your husband today. I didn't even know that existed. And it's sad that it's similar cost to Uber. And it's sad that it's not out here in the suburbs. So is there a way somebody could reach out to Uber and see what would it take to get them to come out here? And there's a need in the suburbs for this.
And actually, we did reach out to Uber, and that was one of the challenges, because the volume of calls of that type of service didn't necessitate or warrant those Uber drivers that had that ability for handicap or wheelchair out in the south suburbs.
But given that this service is going to be ending, maybe they would reconsider.
We definitely will.
Okay.
Are there any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know that Sarah has been trying to reach out to some of these, and Tom Morgan, and of course your office, reaching out to some of these organizations like Peace Memorial and some of the other places that we do have individuals that get dropped off to and from, and I believe they are trying to make arrangements to provide some of that transportation to some of these locations as well. I know Peace Memorial is one of them, and I believe
as a matter of fact,
Tinley Park.
CTF. There are 6 of the regular riders that qualify and have registered that it's workshops that we would provide rides at Tinley Park, as also Peace Memorial Village, and 6 of the regular and 2 of the part-time riders are going to take advantage. There's a cost, on average about $100 per month, but nonetheless, CTF is going to provide that service for them and hope to expand it. And that's actually, that might be a program that's coming to the south end of town, as you know, regarding St. Xavier. So hopefully, we'll be able to accommodate.
And I apologize, we had one other speaker on this subject, so Ms. McCowiak, if you'd like to come up and speak.
My name is Diane Makoviak, and I have 2 adult children, they're not children's, that are in my home and utilize Dial-A-Ride to try to be as independent as they possibly can. My son has vision loss, which was gradual. It began in his 20s, so he had to go from being able to transport himself to utilizing public transportation. Dial-A-Ride is the way he can get independently to and from utilizing the community. The paratransit, ADA paratransit, does not go everywhere in Orland. He had a job opportunity at the Animal Hospital on 179th and Wolf Road, but couldn't get there using public transportation, and my husband and I have to drive to keep us afloat. My daughter has autism, and she also utilizes the ADA paratransit when she can, but again, it doesn't go everywhere. If it wasn't for the Village of Orland Park Special Rec offering programs, there'd be many days where they would be at home, and that's the last thing that we want. They want to be out in the community. We've resided in this community for 27 years. We're tax-paying, active participants, and they want to continue to be that way. But we do need help, and the transportation is the biggest holdup because they want to be out. They are tax-paying. We voted by mail. So we are active participants in this community, but we need the community's help, and we can't do it alone. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman?
Trustee Calendro.
This was a hard budget cycle, and I just personally want to, and I've talked to a couple of the board members, and anything we can do for fundraising, if we have to have a fundraiser, I also will give up part of my salary as a trustee to help defray these costs. And that's, you can take me to the bank. Don't tell my wife, but you can take me to the bank on that one. But whatever we can do to have maybe a fundraiser before to at least help these GAP children, not adults, needs. This is these people we need to help out. So I'll volunteer to hold a fundraiser in the community to help these gaps, and maybe, and I know the mayor talked about some connections with the dealerships, and maybe making sure that none of these special individuals are left behind. So I just want to put that out there, and hopefully some of the trustees can help out with that too.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Guerra.
I spoke with Trustee Calandrello earlier today, and I think what might be useful, because obviously, Bob, you go to Marine Valley, so the workshops aren't something that apply to you. Perhaps we can talk with our neighboring communities, Payless Park, Payless Heights, see if we can combine resources, how many other people are in the same position, and see how we can all benefit working together that way. Trustee Calandrello mentioned raising funds. We can do that. We can, perhaps with those funds, purchase a vehicle that would accommodate your chair and what other the needs are, but we have to find out what those needs are first, and we can start collecting this information tomorrow. And if you would help us with giving us the information you have, because obviously you've been using the service, you probably know way more about it than I do. So let's talk. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me give you my number. Yeah, we'll get it. Or Sarah's here. Sarah, if you wouldn't mind getting their contact information.
We have their
for
contact
us?
information.
Oh, right there. Okay. We'll talk.
Make sure Sarah gets that. Thank you. Are there any other comments? Trustee Fenton.
I agree with everything that's been said. I'm just a little confused that we received an email today saying that 20 of the participants were covered by the new programs that you were talking about from Peace Memorial and Tinley Park. So how many individuals fall in this gap?
I'm confused. I didn't see an email where 20. I know out of the 20 regular riders, there were 6.
There were 6?
That qualified, and then 2 of the part-time semi-regular riders that are covered.
So have we heard from the other individuals as to what they're attempting to do?
Those are the ones that we know of that are confirmed, and that came from Tom, from B&E. Tom Morgan provided that information. There could be more, but that's all we have confirmed right now.
So we don't know what the other needs are.
Some of the we did receive phone calls that are documented and what the needs are. Now, whether or not they go to those workshops specifically, I don't have that information. Those other riders that may not be serviced, they may have, like Mr. Connors here, he doesn't go to the workshops that are covered by CTF. So I don't have the information on which of those individuals, those riders, go to those workshops.
And so we don't have any information about how much if they're willing to cover the total cost of what it's costing for the ride?
Well, like I stated, the information is it's approximately $100 per month regarding the CTF with the workshops.
I was referring to our program.
We've done an analysis on that before. One of our challenges is that our full-time bus driver is going to be retiring, and 2 of our part-time bus drivers have already, prior to the end of the year, have found other employment, and we do have a challenge trying to obtain bus drivers. I mean, just because of the dollar amount it costs to have them. And then the program, we do have the analysis. I don't have that here. I'll be more than happy to provide that information to the board again. With that, I do know that our net loss every year is approximately $130,000 for the program, and I believe we subsidize, somewhere around.
The subsidy from the RTA is $30,000, and then revenue generated is approximately $20,000. But in addition to that $130,000, there's the administrative cost, because the requirements for, and Tom can touch on that too, just from the HR, from the administration, certifying these drivers, because the requirements are quite extensive. So the soft cost, total net, I mean, it's hard to put a dollar number on it other than, employee staff hours that work on it, but it's significant, not to mention Tom's.
It's a net loss of $130,000, hard dollars.
Correct, but I'm just saying, if we knew what the actual cost per rider, per ride was, maybe the individual...
As I recall, you shared that with us, Joe, at one point. It was about $17 a ride, as I recall,
I think
all
so.
in.
I think so. I think it's about $17 a ride. I don't know if Ahmad's here.
So
approximately 15 and change, and we operate in the red per trip, about $10.39 per trip in the red.
So any of the individuals that called in, did we offer the option of, would you be willing to pay the full fare?
We did not.
Okay.
It's about $12 per ride that the village subsidizes.
So the the total ride is $14?
$24 the village is subsidizing.
Round trip?
Round trip.
So the village is subsidizing $12 per trip. The PACE is subsidizing about $5 a trip.
Something like that.
I think they're 5, and then each rider pays 2. So you're looking at about $19.
Right, about $19, yeah, between $17 and $19 per trip.
That might be something that we might want to consider, calling those individuals and asking if they're willing to cover the full fare.
Well, one of the reasons why we brought it to the board so early on was that we needed to let PACE know by end of September, beginning of October, whether or not we were going to continue, because it's a year contract with them. So we did notify them that we were discontinuing the program, and then we also notified the employees. And one of the employees are taking advantage of an early retirement incentive program that we're offering here, and the other 2 part-time bus drivers are leaving. So we do have a challenge for 2019 with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Trustee Ruzick.
So if I can just make a comment, it appears though we may just be talking about a handful of people who are in this gap.
Yes, that's my understanding in talking to Assistant Village Manager Keating, who's been working closely with Mr. Morgan
Okay.
and Sarah from your office and Jennifer, that most individuals have obtained different transportation needs, but there are a handful that I've recently learning that fall into this gap that you speak of.
So as the mayor stated, I mean, maybe we need to reach out and make sure that we have explored all options with them. And if you can come back with us with options that we as a village can do,
Sure.
short of reinstating the whole program. Let's think outside the box and
Okay.
see if we can do something for these people. I think
But we
as
need
mayor-
to know, and that's part of that is the riders need to tell us if they don't
Exactly.
fall under one of these programs, and then there's a gap, we need to know about it. And we can't solve the problem if we don't know the gap exists. And Trustee Ruzick, to your point, and obviously Jennifer receives a lot of calls, about 50% of them are senior eligible and not in wheelchairs. And they've all expressed they don't want to use that service because it takes them longer to show up at their house. But they do have another option within the village.
We'll get together, we'll work and talk and confirm all the riderships. We do have the contact information for the regular riders. The occasional riders, that is a little bit more challenging, but we'll work on getting communication to them as we're going through the program. As you know, we have about another month and a half before it would be discontinued.
And my assumption would be that the regular riders are going to be those people who don't have, that are in a scooter or something like that. I would imagine the occasional rider is the person who just has a, gap that day, and there are options for them, Lyft, Uber, what have you.
Right.
So I would say that if you're going with the regular and semi-regular riders, which I think we're just a little over 20.
Yeah, I
that's the
believe you're
place to
correct.
start.
That's correct. That is correct. But we will we'll continue to explore and get some information.
Okay, thank you. Colby Kurtzman?
I'm here talking about Shirley's House of the Dead, a small place in my neighborhood that I worked for the past 2 years, and there's been some problems with, I really don't know. It's just been some problems with the spacing of the props and everything, and I've been going to this house since I was a little boy. I remember going and being terrified out of my mind, and it was really fun. And yeah, it's kind of sad that it might be shut down just because it's a nuisance to the neighborhood. Me and my mom, we live a couple doors down, and we've never had any problems. There's been sometimes some people have been parking in front of our driveways, but besides that, nothing's been left on the lawn. Everyone has been orderly, and everything has been going smoothly. Besides last year when it went on Facebook and then it blew up, but besides that, it's been all good this year. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Yvonne Shirley?
Hi. I've never had the opportunity to speak before this board before, but tonight I decided to come out and speak to this community because we are a part of this community. We've been a tradition for 16 years in Orland Park with our Halloween home haunt. Instead of chastising our display, we should be commended for our contribution to this community. Surrounding towns have awards for Best Halloween House and Christmas House. Those towns are proud of the notoriety and revenue that the displays bring in. We hire this young man, Andrew High School students and Sandburg students, with their first jobs for weekends with the school's assistance. Our entire street was closed from parking this year for the weekends, which affected handicapped children and seniors unable to walk distances. Families with their children were given tickets if they did not see tiny signs posted on my street. Families that came to see a Halloween and view a Halloween display were given tickets on their cars that they have to pay because they came to enjoy a good old-time fun night out in Orland Park. A very expensive camera, a 360-dome camera, was put up in front of our home on the 1st of October to monitor a residential street and traffic. That very expensive camera is still up on our street and home almost a week after Halloween. There was no necessity to have it in the first place. Neighbors are wondering why it was put up to begin with, and now a week after Halloween, it is still there. We do not appreciate our neighborhood being monitored 24 hours a day with no just cause. We have an entire neighborhood, teachers, and multitudes of others willing to sign a petition on our behalf, business owners that come to our home. They said that they would be willing to come forward to help us out. The Orland Park Police Department should have directed their efforts toward fighting crime, yet had to contend with continually monitoring our residential street due to the town pursuing this matter. Chief McCarthy and Commander West were awesome in their assistance to us. We have multitudes of Orland police officers who bring their families to our display, and they enjoy an evening out. Now, we have understood and we've heard information that the town has been investigating and undertaken someone to find out about closing down excessive holiday displays with only 50% of a yard decorated on personal property. I could not believe that the town would take the stance to take a First Amendment right away from a citizen and a taxpayer, and they would do this. Whoever's investigating this for the town, I certainly hope that the town would cease with this. We intend to carry on our display because it is a tradition in Orland Park. We bring in revenue in October, just like other Halloween houses do in this area. Other towns, as I stated, are proud of the homeowners that have the tenacity to put forth and do something like this. Out of our own pockets, we spend between $11,000 and $15,000 a year to do this display, for no thank you in return from anyone. If it is the town's plan to stop holiday displays on personal property or limit them to 50%, then we will forge on to make certain no rights are violated. I would hope that the town ceases any future plans to eradicate holiday displays on personal property for Halloween, Christmas, or any given holiday. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Hold on, we have one more speaker on this, and then we can talk. Ralph Shirley?
Okay, same subject. My name is Ralph Shirley, and I'm here to discuss our Halloween haunt. I've been an agent for a major insurance company for 38 years, and I have concluded that most problems involve money. There's even a lot of songs about it. Now, how much did this costly assault and our Halloween haunt cost the taxpayers of Orland Park? This camera, 360-degree camera, was put up there ostensibly to monitor traffic. Of course, it also monitors our house and display. You can see our bedroom because I can see it. Privacy concerns aside, for now, underlined, how much does this cost the village? Today, well after Halloween and after the takedown of the display, the camera remains. This is a further waste. We were told, this is wonderful, we were told the weather has been too severe to remove it. Is this not ridiculous? What was the difference in weather at the beginning of the month when they put this camera up? You know, I was born at night, but not last night. So when I hear this type of thing, I mean, it just infuriates me. Some of the nice things my wife said, I don't feel the same way. Now, I just wonder also how newspapers and social media would find that amusing. I really do. Given the incidence of carjacking, car theft, retail theft, and the problems at Orland Square, Couldn't this camera have been used somewhere to prevent crime? I would think so. How about the man-hours spent having police monitor the display all month, the cost of payroll, gasoline, automobile, and equipment? It's got to be very high. A business would not have spent this money so foolishly, but this is not a business. Right now, it seems like a cauldron of politicians spending money that isn't theirs. And of course, this is very common. And remember, elections tomorrow, vote Republican. A business would not have spent money this foolishly. We know that. We look at this display, and it's not a public nuisance. And I'll tell you what is a public nuisance. You may not know this. There's a lot of cases on public nuisance.
1 minute.
One's from Plantation, Florida, versus Hyatt. It went to court. The guy had 200,000 lights, 100,000 visitors, a movie screen, and a Ferris wheel. The court decided that this was not a public nuisance. The city of Plantation, Florida, you can look it up, it cost them $427,002.09, and that is worse than you guys. To conclude, my attorney came to see this, who happens to be a mayor of a suburb near here. He looked at this, he loved the display. And in addition to loving the display, he saw those cheap police signs you guys put up. They look like you were made in a grammar school. He saw the cop cars driving around, and he saw this asinine, useless, expensive, wasteful camera. And you know what he said? He says, these people at Orland Park have got it all wrong. If this display was in my town, I'd have buses going back and forth between the village and the display because it's an asset. And that is what I think. Good day.
Thank you. Before the board comments, Chief, would you like to explain or Village Manager Lamargo, would you like to explain what we did for this
Yes,
event?
I'm going to have the chief explain this.
First, I'm aware of no efforts whatsoever by the village to shut this down. I'm not aware of any efforts whatsoever.
That is correct.
However, there were concerns by other neighbors, including one who had a member of their family who was in hospice and since died during the time we put up the camera. One of the main reasons we put up the camera was concerns from that family specifically that if their loved one had an emergency and there was a lot of traffic on the street, would the fire department be able to get there? Now, as I mentioned to the Shirleys, they've got emergency equipment just like ours, but we allowed the fire department to have access to the camera. So if a call came from that location, from that home, they could see it, they could notify us, and we would get there ahead of time to clear the street to allow an ambulance to get there. The cost of the camera is almost minimal, almost nothing. It is installed on duty. We have the cameras available. When we had threats against veterans in Orland Park by ISIS, we had the same camera up in almost record time. There's no cost to it because it's on our wireless network. The camera will be taken down promptly, but we have a number of cameras, and I will assure that that thing will be down in the next day or two. We tried to come up with the best solution for the most people because we did have complaints from neighbors. So we tried to come up with the best solution, which was no parking on both sides of the street this year. And we would have had no objection, and Commander West, I believe, relayed that if there's any handicapped person, we're naturally not going to be ticketing them. But this was an effort to try to make this work as well as we can while trying to work with all the neighbors. There was a neighbor across the street and several others. We surveyed the entire neighborhood. We went out on foot and checked with every neighbor. And I agree, almost every neighbor was for this. But we're trying to work with everyone to have the best possible outcome here. We recognize when you do that, you don't make anyone happy, oftentimes. And it may have caused some people to not go. I don't know about that. We did push the parking to other streets, up and down Deer Creek, onto other streets when we put up the no parking. As far as the cheap signs, I'm not going to spend a lot of money putting up signs for what's going to be there for a couple of weeks. So, again, I'm not aware of any effort whatsoever to shut this down. That doesn't exist. I don't know where it came from. It doesn't exist, period. As far as the camera, we'll get it turned off, But the reason for the camera was for the health of this one person in particular, as well as to allow us to monitor it. When we get the call and say the street is completely clogged up with traffic, we can quickly take a look at the camera and see if that's the case. The camera is not monitored 24/7. We have other cameras in the village, and it's not monitored at all until we have an issue. Then we go back and look at the camera. So Commander West, I think the Shirleys would agree, did as good a job, worked with them as much as possible.
Commander West was awesome.
Yeah.
But in fact, that person was deceased 2 weeks before Halloween.
We understood, but the camera was in, that's.
My wife called you to tell you he was deceased.
I know that, but once the camera was up, we weren't going to take it down. This was a way to monitor it to see if what people tell us is true without sending police cars there 24 hours a day. So we'll continue to work with them on this, and whether, I think next year, Commander West talked to him and said, now experiment with just no parking on one side of the street, which would be naturally the fire hydrant side of the street. So again, there is no effort whatsoever to eliminate the program. It's an effort to make it as good as we can for everyone involved.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to add, I know there was a comment about trying to limit the number of lights or decorations or anything. As a village mayor, I'm aware of none of that, nor have I given any direction to any of our staff to even look into that. I mean, we welcome holiday displays of every kind, but we do get a lot of phone calls from time to time because of the impact of traffic and everything.
And we would ask the attorney if we were going to ask that. And Attorney Fricker, have you received any requests from anyone on this matter?
No, none.
Okay. Okay, now, Trustee Carroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to point out to the Shirleys, I brought my family out there last year, and it's a great display, and my kids loved it. But there were a lot of complaints last year, and I know Chief McCarthy, his command staff, his patrol division were monitoring it daily. Mr. Lamargo, our village manager, was monitoring it daily, and in fact, one of the times I was out there, the traffic was a safety hazard in my experience as a law enforcement officer previously. And I do know that Chief McCarthy and our village staff did meet with you and your neighbors, and this was a negotiated set of regulations. Unchecked, we had safety issues from last year, and we had complaints. I know Trustee Gear, I think you drove down there because we talked about it once last year as well. There were a lot of concerns about the traffic and the safety. But I will also echo what Mr. Lamargo, our village manager, what our village attorney, and what our chief just said. I'm, as one of the board members, unaware of any efforts to limit holiday displays of any kind. At one time, we did have, I think our village historian Margie Owens-Klotz would know when it was, a contest for the best Christmas lights. I don't know that we've had them in recent years. Trustee Fenton or somebody, I think, knows about it as well. We have done that. There's been no effort that I'm aware of by this board or any staff member to limit any expression of holiday spirit. But I think that what was done this year was, as Chief McCarthy said, an experiment to try and bring everyone together with a solution that would make it still enjoyable for everybody while making it safe for everybody. And it sounds like they're looking at ways of tweaking that next year, and I'm sure we'll do that successfully. Thank you.
Trustee Guerra.
To what Trustee Carroll said, he's absolutely right. We got a call last year, I did, from one of your neighbors that asked us to come into their driveway, and I did, and actually I called the mayor and he came over as well. We were there to experience it ourselves. It was 10 o'clock on a weeknight. It was congested. If there was an emergency, no one can get through. It's great, we all say, all right, we love lights and decorations until you have to live on the street. Maybe it's not always so much fun. And we did get a letter from another resident whose husband was terminally ill. And her concern was, if I need to call for emergency services, can they get to my home? I think we can all imagine what that must be like. So the fact that he passed, I'm sorry for her. I haven't spoken to her since, but we had the concern, and the chief contacted me because that is my committee and let me know that Commander West did go out. He talked to all the neighbors on the street, and many of them supported it. They were happy for it. There were a few that were not as happy as others. We tried to work with all, and the camera was there to assure that the safety could be addressed if there was a need for an ambulance to get through, a fire truck. again, you can all imagine what that's like. This is gridlock during the holiday. It's a very, not always, at times you have to appreciate that traffic could not get through the street. I saw it. So it's very nice, I appreciate it, but again, there's never 100% for anything. And our police department did the best they could to make everyone, accept the way it went. He told me himself that the majority accepts it and appreciates it. That's fine. But you try and you have consideration for those who don't as well. But we're not trying to eliminate this. We do our own holiday decorations. That's all.
Trustee Fenton.
Just for the record, I know myself, and I asked Trustee Calandrello, we weren't aware of, I've never heard of any of the accusations or the statements that were made about an investigation, or that we were saying you had to take your display down or anything like that. So I don't know where that information came from, but it didn't come from the two of us, or as the other trustee said the same thing. I'm a big advocate of holiday decorations, and we did have decorate your best Christmas decorations. We did it for the commercial area and for residentials for numerous years. In fact, the McDonald family won first place several years in a row. So this board has always been very pro holiday decorations. So I understand of the issues out there. I had a house in my subdivision that was big on Christmas decorations, and it did get congested. But I know our police department did everything in their power to ease the pain for all the residents in the area. But I just want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that nobody sitting up here that I'm aware of that said your display couldn't go up anymore, we were banning decorations, or there's an investigation. I'm not aware of anything like that. This was all news to me tonight. I mean, I knew about the camera going in, but all the other stuff was brand new.
Anyone else? So I will just echo my conversations about this with the chief, because we knew that last year there were some issues with congestion over there, and the chief briefed me that he met with neighbors and that he also met with Mr. and Mrs. Shirley to discuss a plan. So I think this was everyone was aware of what was going in there, and what he told me is, we're gonna try that this year and see how that works, and sounds like we did and implemented what was discussed. There's no, as everyone on the board has said, there's no effort to curtail any of this, and if we reacted to rumors, the amount of rumors we hear up here, it would be, there would be a lot of things. We'd have an extra 3 hours in every board meeting if we were busy discussing rumors that we hear out there. So I can tell you, obviously our police chief, our village manager, and our village attorney, none of them have heard anyone, and if anyone was going to contact anybody, it would be the three of them about this, and no one on this board floor has, and no one's mentioned it to me. So with that, we can move to board comments. Trustee Gira.
My only comment is go vote.
Trustee Carroll.
I will also say go vote. It's the most important thing we can do as citizens of this country. There's another short comment I want to make is, I didn't bring it up specifically on the transportation issue with the young man that spoke earlier, because I want to talk about it more as a general budget. As the finance chairman of this board, we've had a long budget process, and in fact, that budget process for this year is nearing its end. We take our final vote next month, but this week will probably be the last tweak we do to that budget process. And I love when I see this much participation in a board meeting, because you hear and see for yourselves what we're doing. But I'm going to steal some of Trustee Calandrello's thunder, because he always brings up the fact that the village portion of your tax bill, and we all know Cook County taxes are high, Illinois taxes are high, but the Village of Orland Park portion of your tax bill is 6.9 cents on the dollar. Less than 7% of your tax bill goes to the village. The vast majority, 2/3 of it, goes to the 3 school districts: Grammar School, High School, Moraine Valley. And the reason I bring that up is we spent a lot of time over the last few months, as Trustee Calandrello mentioned, it was a very difficult budget cycle. We spent a lot of time talking about cutting expenses, reduction in workforce, flattening the curve, and I have to bring it up again, because I did bring it up at some of our budget meetings previously, where we had nobody but staff and a couple members of the media present. So while you're here and you heard the heartfelt comments about our Pace Bus program, We've had these discussions for the last few months. But what I want to point out is there's been a reluctance, no one wants to talk about raising taxes. So what we talked about instead for the last few months is cut. And Mr. Lamargo can tell you, if you want his information, as to how many people we've reduced our workforce by. And we've cut the paste bus program, and we've cut the curbside leaf collection, and all these things that we cut. And at the end of the day, to me, as a 42-year resident of this village, to me, it's also cutting the quality of life. Now, we were told by Mr. Lamargo and all of our staff during all this budget process that we'll still be able to offer the core services that we've offered for all these years, that we've enjoyed for all these years, even with this reduction in workforce. But we were also told, maybe the snow doesn't get plowed as quickly. Maybe code enforcement complaints don't get addressed as quickly. Maybe the weeds don't get pulled in the park as quickly. But we'll still be able to provide those core services. The reason I bring this up is because all this effort we've done for the last few months, rather than raise taxes a little bit, we're saving the average resident in Orland Park with the average value home, according to the finance department, about $37. So for $37 more in your taxes, we could have all of these 29 people we've been talking about who have special needs or disabilities get to their doctors and their employers. Yeah. That's my point. That's my point.
Confine
So,
the comments to the board, please.
right. Yeah. So I bring this up because the budget process, we still, as Trustee Ruzick said, we're going to explore every option, and Trustee Calendrillo said, explore every option to provide these services. But at the end of the day, all of this has been about approximately $37 per average household. And Trustee Dodge, who's not here tonight, did bring up at one of our budget meetings, we need to go out into the public and find out, what do you want from us and how much you're willing to pay for it? Well, sir, you're exactly right. That's just it. And to me, as a 42-year resident of the village, I think sometimes we're cutting quality of life more than we're cutting $37 out of our average taxpayer's tax bill. I want to bring that up, and I just please ask, communicate with all of us throughout the end of this budget process, and next year, please, God, come to our budget meetings early and often, come to all of them and see as we're working through this process. Because for some of us, it was very heart-wrenching to have to go through all this, and hopefully it won't be the same thing next year. Thank you.
Trustee Fenton.
I just want everybody who hasn't voted yet, we just want to wish Trustee James Dodge good luck tomorrow in the election. He's running for state treasurer. Also remind everybody that the Veterans Ceremony is the 11th at 11 o'clock, and this year it will be inside because of the weather. It's going to so apparently be too cold. And I'd also like to give kudos to our museum curator, Sarah, who held an event on Friday with an illusionist it was a very successful event, and he raised $940. And also she secured donation for all the food from Papa Joe's. So kudos to Papa Joe's too for contributing to that event. And we've got a lot of very exciting things going on at the museum. New walls that were donated were put in, installed by the individual who lives in town, who donated them from the company that he works for, which is out of town. So we're doing a lot of exciting things at the museum, and I'd like to thank Sarah for all the hard work that she puts in, and her events are becoming very, raising money and not costing. So thank you.
Trustee Calendro.
No comments, Mayor.
Trustee Ruzick.
There was one thing I forgot to mention when Tom Dubleby was here earlier, Mr. Mayor, maybe you're going to comment on this, but Tom received an award recently as he was named an Illinois Bicentennial Honor 200 honoree. Tom has done incredible work with our vets, and I just wished I had mentioned that when he was here. So congratulations again to Tom for his honor. Well recognized.
He's going to get recognition at the next board meeting.
Okay.
We had enough on the plate tonight. Okay, well, I wasn't going to comment on this, but Trustee Carroll talked about the budget, and the reality is that this board faced a situation where we try to keep a 20% operating reserve. We were actually going to be out of reserve money by 2023. So when your costs are going up like this and your revenue is like this, you have to do something to arrest that, and that means working on the cost side of the equation more than the revenue side. In addition, we faced the issues that we faced with Carson's, Sears, Toys R Us, et cetera, in a very short window, like about a 1-month window. Now, those situations we've resolved for the future, but it doesn't mean we don't have a short-term issue for a year or so. But, so these decisions were hard, and we had to talk about them for a long time. But the reality is, when pensions are increasing at 7% a year and they're out of your control, you have to do something on that cost side, or it's unsustainable. It's the same problem we have in the state, and same problem we have in the county, the city. We've been very good about that, but at this point, if we didn't do anything, that particular cost curve has been around since at least, I guess, 2012, that we've known this was coming. And, you know, it's just something that we had to do as a board, and the board worked very hard to try to do that with as few cuts as we possibly could, and to maintain quality of life as much as we possibly can. Sure, certainly there are some services, as we've talked about earlier. One of the reasons this was brought up is because there were other alternatives, and we're committed to trying to find solutions for the few people who may slip through the cracks on this. Trustee Carroll mentioned leaf pickup. Leaf pickup was made for 17% of the village. 83% got no leaf pickup. In order to continue to do leaf pickup for the entire village, we would actually have to add 50 people to our staff over this time frame. That's just not a sustainable program. So we came up with some other solutions, and this year we're going to see how those go. But those cuts were actually made last year, because we started this process last year. We made some cuts, and then this year we made some cuts as well. There are also some new revenue sources as well, but we didn't increase taxes because we think that would be fiscally irresponsible to do, especially given what might be coming to everyone from other avenues. What I really want to talk about tonight was I want to give kudos to Tom Morgan for the Southwest Conference of Mayors auction. He was called out specifically at the Southwest Conference of Mayors meeting for doing a great job with the auction. They were very happy with it. They love coming here to do it. And so, Tom, great job. Make me look good when I go in front of all the other mayors, and they have positive things to say, so I appreciate that. Also, our USDA bid, and Khurshid Hoda is here. I really want to thank Ed Lilo and Khurshid Hoda for their work, working with my office, because it came through our office on the USDA bid, which many of you may have saw on the Southwest, in the Chicago Tribune, came out. And so that was a good article for Orland Park. We're one of 139 communities, but the fact that we are in the mix and people are talking about it is a good thing. So again, kudos to you guys for working hard to make sure that was done well. So I appreciate it. And the Veterans Collection we've already talked about, because Tom was asked, but they did collect over 1,000 pounds and $1,490 for postage yesterday. So congratulations to Tom, the Veterans Commission, and then I know that some of you, I don't know who, but some of you were out there to help as well. So any staff that volunteered there, I appreciate that as well. And with that, I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Fenton.
move to go into closed executive session for A, approval of minutes, B, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific village employees, and C, setting a price for sale or lease of village property.
Second.
Call the roll.
Trustee Fenton.
Aye.
Trustee Calandrello.
Aye.
Trustee Guerra.
Aye.
Trustee Ruzick.
Aye.
Trustee Carroll.
Aye.
Mayor Pico.
Aye.